Liam adjusted his tie, glancing at his reflection in the glass door as he entered the pitch room. His heart raced with anticipation, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. The conference room was sterile, too bright, too sleek, but he'd prepared for this. He had everything ready. Colorful slides, polished prototypes, and a carefully curated set of user data. Near You, a social discovery app designed for introverts and neurodivergent individuals, was more than just a project for him. It was personal. He took a deep breath and began, his voice steady, though his hands trembled slightly. Near You aims to bridge the gap for individuals who struggle with traditional networking or dating platforms. For people like me, people who need a more intentional, less overwhelming way to connect. It's more than just an app. It's a lifeline. The leadership team sat around the table, disinterested expressions painted on their faces. They barely glanced at the slides as Liam clicked through, outlining market trends, statistics, and how his app could tap into an underserved niche. But no matter how much he tried to bring the data to life, the room stayed silent. That is, until Daniel Tran, the senior VP, spoke up. Liam? Daniel's voice was clipped, his gaze never leaving his tablet. This is all well and good, but it's not exactly the next big thing, is it? We're talking about something that's already been done, just with different labels. He waved a dismissive hand as Liam opened his mouth to respond. This is cute, but we don't have time for cute. No one cares about niche. Liam froze, a chill spreading through his chest. He opened his mouth, but the words faltered. He had prepared for pushback, but not this. Not dismissal. Liam started, but Daniel cut him off, leaning back in his chair, a smirk creeping onto his face. Listen, you're just a support engineer, Liam. You're not even in the development pipeline, so maybe, just maybe, this idea isn't as important as you think. Liam blinked, stunned by the sudden turn. He fought the heat rising in his cheeks, but the words cut deeper than he could have anticipated. He was just dismissed. Minutes later, HR arrived. The door opened with a soft click, and an unfamiliar tension hung in the air. Liam was informed, without ceremony, that his role was being reassigned, effective immediately. He was no longer a developer. His new post? The front desk. And by the end of the day, he was to hand over all access to company systems. The room swirled as he stood there, dumbfounded, his thoughts a storm of anger and confusion. Humiliated, lost. How had it come to this? Liam returned to his tiny apartment, the walls closing in around him as he dropped his bag onto the couch. He hadn't bothered to turn on the lights. The only glow in the room came from his laptop screen, where the mock-ups of Near You still sat, untouched. He stared at them, feeling the weight of rejection in his chest. What was the point now? They'd crushed his dream, laughed it off. His hands hovered over the keys, but he couldn't bring himself to close the app. The idea was still there, alive, pulsing with potential. But it felt fragile now, like a dream slipping through his fingers. He picked up his phone, dialing his sister's number without thinking. Her voice, warm and familiar, brought a small sense of relief. Hey, Liam, how'd it go? Liam let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. They shut it down. I'm reassigned. I'm not even a developer anymore. There was a pause. Then she spoke, steady and sure. You know what I think? They're wrong. Your idea has value. Don't let them bury it just because they don't see it. Her words landed like a spark in the dark. He nodded, though she couldn't see him. Yeah, you're right. But what now? That's when he noticed it. The VPN was still connected to the company network. His heart skipped. They hadn't revoked his dev access. His mind raced as the possibilities formed. He could keep working on Near You secretly. He took a deep breath, then grabbed his phone and started texting. Rachel, the back-end developer from college. Jamil, the creative UX designer from the hackathon. Monica, the lawyer who knew startup IP law. Together, they could make this happen. They'd work remotely, in secret, with everything on the line. It was time to turn this into something bigger. Liam's first day as receptionist at Nexatech was a blur of monotony. The lobby was sterile, the buzzing fluorescent. Lights above him felt like a constant reminder of his fall from grace. He greeted visitors with a strained smile, answering questions about conference room directions and restroom locations, his mind always drifting back to the app he was now forced to develop in secret. At first, nobody paid much attention to him, which, in retrospect, turned out to be the perfect cover. His new position, though humiliating, allowed him to hear everything. As he sat behind the front desk, he overheard bits of executive conversations, market strategies, and product meetings, all the things that were once his realm. They were discussing upcoming releases, new technologies, partnerships, details that made his heart race. He noted everything in his head. Every piece of information was fuel for the fire that was burning within him, pushing him to continue building near you. During his lunch breaks, and whenever the office was quiet, Liam pulled out his personal laptop and began working on Near You. His fingers moved swiftly across the keys, writing code late into the afternoons when the office was empty. At night, when the world was asleep, his small team would gather on video calls, their faces illuminated by the glow of their screens. They started small, building a minimum viable product that had just the basics: profile setup, location filtering, and interest tagging. Despite the slow pace at first, momentum began to build. Rachel, the back-end developer, was a machine, coding key features overnight, pushing updates as soon as they were ready. Jamil worked tirelessly on the design, making sure the interface was clean, friendly, and simple to navigate. He was determined that the app would feel welcoming, focusing on comfort over clutter. It was crucial. This had to be a space where people felt safe and in control. Liam's contribution was the infrastructure. He meticulously built a secure cloud system, making sure that everything was encrypted and safe from prying eyes. The technical details, the behind-the-scenes work, it was a puzzle he was finally piecing together, and it felt like he was part of something that mattered again. As the weeks passed, Liam found a new rhythm. His days at the front desk, though still mundane, became a blur. Each quiet moment was another opportunity to code, to push the app forward. The late-night calls with his team became a lifeline, the only time he could truly escape the humdrum of his new reality. The energy from his team, their shared passion and belief in Near You, reignited something within him. He felt alive again, motivated in ways he hadn't been in years. The work became more than just coding. It was a mission, a rebellion. Liam had been broken down, humiliated, but in the shadows of the company that had dismissed him, he was building something that was his. And with each line of code, each design tweak, each late-night discussion, Near You grew stronger. The team grew closer, not just as colleagues, but as friends. They supported each other emotionally, creatively, pushing through the obstacles and doubts. Liam started to enjoy the work more than he ever did as a full-time developer. It wasn't just about the app anymore, it was about the journey, the feeling of reclaiming something that had been taken from him, and now, with every keystroke, every decision, he was crafting something that might just change everything. One afternoon, as Liam sat quietly behind the front desk, a member of the IT team approached his area with a clipboard in hand. "We're just updating some monitoring software," the technician said with a polite smile, as though it was routine. But Liam's heart skipped a beat. He forced himself to act casual, nodding as the technician moved past him, but the unease was bubbling inside. As the IT team member began to plug into nearby systems, Liam realized they weren't just doing a routine update, they were tightening network security. Something was off. They were watching for something. Someone was watching him. That evening, after the office had emptied out, Liam quickly rerouted all project traffic through an external VPN. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it would add another layer of security. He fired off messages to the team, warning them to be extra cautious. "We need to be careful," he wrote. "I think they're onto us." Rachel, Jamil, and Monica agreed immediately. They'd known this day might come. The threat was real now, and the pressure was mounting. But there was no turning back. They were on a deadline to finish Near You before anyone else could steal the idea. Every hour, every line of code mattered more than ever. The next morning, at an all-hands meeting, Daniel Tran, the same executive who had dismissed Liam's pitch months ago, stood in front of the room with a smug grin plastered on his face. "I'm excited to introduce a new innovation from Nexatech," Daniel said, clicking a remote to bring up the product slides. "It's called ConnectSphere. It's a game changer in social discovery. Think of it as a platform where people can connect more intentionally with tools that make the experience less overwhelming." Liam's blood ran cold. The app on the screen looked almost identical to Near You. Same concept, same features. It was Near You, just with Nexatech's polished corporate branding slapped over it. His stomach twisted as the realization hit. Someone had stolen elements from his original pitch. But instead of panicking, Liam felt a surge of defiance. This was it. The moment to go all in. They hadn't just copied his idea, they had underestimated him. Near You wasn't just an app, it was his vision, and now it was time to fight for it. He wasn't going to back down, he was going to double down. The pressure was mounting, and the problems seemed to stack up faster than Liam could handle. Just as they thought they were nearing the finish line, a major bug in the peer match filter surfaced. It was supposed to block unsafe content, but instead it allowed it through, exposing users to unwanted interactions. Rachel, who had been working non-stop to improve the back-end, informed the team that it would take at least 2 weeks to fix properly. There was no way they could launch without it. The bug had to be squashed, or Near You would be a liability. As if that wasn't enough, Liam noticed that download speeds were starting to slow significantly. After some investigation, he realized the increased monitoring from Nexatech was affecting their traffic. The walls were closing in. With every passing hour, they were getting closer to the launch date and further from having a flawless product. Liam barely slept. His days were filled with answering phones at the front desk, while his nights were consumed by coding, tweaking, and problem-solving. His fingers ached from the constant typing, but the weight of the project pushed him to keep going. Monica helped them navigate the complex world of legal trademarks and release guidelines, offering her expertise to ensure their launch wasn't legally compromised. But the emotional toll was beginning to show. Doubt crept in. Was it worth all of this? Was Near You truly the solution he thought it was? Or was he just chasing a dream? The late nights, the constant worry, it was taking its toll on him. Then, just as the clock ticked down, they had their breakthrough. Rachel fixed the filtering bug just in time. The app was finally stable, and the beta testers, friends of friends who had agreed to try it out, were giving glowing feedback. Jamil reported that users were saying it felt like meeting people without pressure, which was exactly the vibe they had wanted from the start. Liam gathered the team for a final meeting. They sat around their screens, each of them exhausted but more determined than ever. "We launch now," Liam said, his voice steady despite the weight of the decision. They all agreed. No marketing team, no budget, just faith in the product. With a deep breath, Liam wrote a heartfelt launch post, sharing his journey of rejection, determination, and the dream that had fueled Near You. This was their moment. The app was ready, and so were they. At exactly 6 a.m., Liam sat at his desk, staring at the launch button. His finger hovered over the key, his breath caught in his chest. The past months had been a whirlwind of doubt, pressure, and late nights. But now, in this moment, it was finally time. With one decisive click, Near You went live. Within hours, the app began to trend on social media platforms. Reddit communities, Twitter users, and niche online forums started buzzing with excitement. People were talking about it, sharing their experiences. In a world where so many apps felt overwhelming, Near You was a breath of fresh air, exactly what they'd promised it would be. As the morning wore on, downloads soared. Liam's phone pinged with constant notifications, and his inbox filled with glowing feedback. People loved it. The idea that had been dismissed by Nexatech was now gaining traction. It felt like a dream, watching the app grow in real time. Within 2 days, user growth surpassed 25,000, an overwhelming success for an independent launch with no marketing budget. Then the call came. A journalist from TechCrunch reached out to Liam, requesting an interview about the app's success. He was taken aback. This was happening faster than he could process. Back at Nexatech, things started to shift. Executives whispered about the cool new app they'd seen trending. Daniel, walking past Liam's desk as he did every day, casually mentioned it. "Hey, have you seen that new app Near You? It's trending. Pretty interesting." Liam smiled, keeping his composure. "Yeah, I've heard of it." He didn't say more. He didn't need to. The truth was already out there. The app that had once been dismissed was now out in the world, and it was thriving. Near You was his, and no one could take that away. A month later, I handed in my resignation. I did not storm out. I did not make a speech. I simply left. Quietly, confidently, the app I had believed in, the one they had dismissed, mocked, and tried to copy, had just reached 100,000 users. I built it without their support, without their permission, using their Wi-Fi. The thing about great ideas, you cannot lock them in a box. They find a way. Sometimes even from the front desk. As I packed up my things, I glanced around the sterile office one last time. The place that had once been my dream was now just a chapter in my story. Near You had surpassed every expectation, and the world was starting to see it for what it truly was, a lifeline, a revolution in social discovery for those who had long been overlooked. And I was no longer the guy behind the front desk. I was the creator of something that had changed lives. The silence of rejection had fueled my fire, and now my creation was speaking louder than words ever could. I was proud of what I'd built, and, more than anything, I was proud of how I had done it. From the shadows, with no permission, just belief.